You're listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Emanuel.
Mayor Emanuel, Chicago Stories. We have the great fortune of having Tim Cook from Apple.
Great to be here.
Great, thank you for being here. So I know this is called Chicago Stories. We interview people about who I meet all the time, and that I think people would love to meet also and hear their stories. So I'm going to ask you, why Chicago? Why this store? Why now?
We were in Chicago in 2003. Very first time for us to build a significant store. We found an incredible opportunity on Michigan Ave. We love Chicago. The intersection of love and work kind of came together, and we built a store there. And the community was incredibly welcoming. We've served 20 plus million customers there, and now we are at another sort of crossroads. And this crossroads is we have worked super hard to innovate in retail like we do in our products. And sort of all of the latest innovations in our retail, and including connection into the community, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah.
All of those things are coming together, and we're doing it in Chicago first. And so 14 years later, we're first again.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a better place to do it.
Thank you. Well, why is that? And then I want to ask, how did you come up with the concept of not just a store, not just retail, but making it a community place and using theater, and then also not just theater, but then I know you're doing stuff with Theatricate, but also 1871, which I'm really excited about both of those.
A lot of all of this is related. So why Chicago? It's because Chicago is has a incredible diverse community. There is a realization here that coding is important. We love that because we're very much proponents of every child and every adult learning coding. There's a great artist community here, whether that's visual or musician. Or writing stories, it's like everything. And so we've seen that over the time period, and it felt like the natural place for us to go in and connect to the community. And then with your personal leadership on the Riverfront project,
take as much time on that topic as you want.
Finding this spot.
Yeah.
No, these spots. I realized it didn't look like this before, and some people thought, "Oh, why are you going there?" But we saw beauty in it, and we thought about what it could be. And so when you put all of those things together, it's natural that we should be here. It's more of why not why.
Yeah,
and so that's how it feels. Even though this is called a store, it's honestly really not. A store is a very small part of what people do. The selling part is a very small part of what goes on here. We're about a place to discover and explore our products. We're about a place to learn. We're about a place to connect with other people, whether that's the artist community or creators of all types, whether they're creating code or creating new businesses or creating a new musical or whatever. This is the place. And we wanted to be able to connect into a meaningful public space. And what's more meaningful than being on the river?
Yeah.
It's, in one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
I always said that Chicago's river will be the next park, and that's what it's become, a true public place where it's not anybody else's, but it's everybody's.
Yeah, I love that way of looking at it. I think that's a great way to look at it. I also think it's such a privilege to be in a city with water running through it. It's I don't know. I think there's a beauty and a connection to nature that is
in the heart of a major metropolitan center.
Yeah, exactly. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to be a part of it.
Well, thank you for making Chicago number one. We're kind of always feeling like that we should be number one. So, I don't know if you know this. The Apple product is as part of the Chicago Public Schools.
The
iPad, and by 2018, it says to graduate high school, you'll have to have taken a class in coding.
Yeah, I love this. I think it's so important. Mobile apps are touching our lives in all areas, from the way we bank to the way our health data is secured and diagnosed in some ways. It's the way we connect with each other. It's the way we entertain ourselves. It's the way we get news. I mean, all of these things. And so regardless of whether people want to be a computer scientist or not, it's very important, I think, for people to know what's possible. And going into a class in coding really gives you that.
Everybody's going to have to be bilingual, and the other language is going to be coding.
Exactly. I honestly believe that it's the most important second language.
Without a doubt.
That's my perspective on it. I know people are disagreeing with me on that, but that's how I view it. And
well, actually, one little side fact. So my life is, I think if you got 20 mayors and we all sat around here at this table, the biggest topic we would have is how do you create inclusive growth, not exclusive.
Yeah.
And unless coding is taught in all schools and universal to every child, not just a select, then you're never going to have an economy where everybody is, at least feels like they can be part of the winning circle rather than on the outside.
I totally agree. I mean, education is the great equalizer. It was for both of us. And as a core part of education now, coding is arguably as important as anything else. And so I think it gives a lot of people hope and opportunity that has always been one of the core values and propositions as an American. Exactly. And this is why we're pushing this so much, and we're pushing and advocating it in K-12, but we're also advocating it in community colleges. And as you know, we're working hard on this, including with some things coming up here.
Yes.
And we could not be happier with this.
Well, there's two things you and I, we have a lot in common and share, but you know, you're in the city that is the only city that if you get a B average in high school, we make community college free, and it's the only public scholarship open to Dreamers.
Oh, that is impressive.
Yes, that if you,
that's great.
All you have to do is get a B average, and it's the only public scholarship open to Dreamers in the United States of America. And 72% of the kids in Chicago, it's called Chicago Star, 72% of the first ones in their family to go to college. And I know you work extremely hard on diversity.
Yeah.
And also in the effort of making sure everybody, regardless of where they came from, have a chance in America.
That's right. And you know what we found, Mayor, was that as we started working in community colleges, the community
you call me Ram, I'll call you Tim.
Great. The community colleges in the United States are significantly more diverse than the four-year universities. It's like night and day, honestly. And I mean gender diversity and ethnic diversity. Yeah. And so it feels great to be a part of those programs. And we started with 6 partnerships there, and it is scaling fast. It already has blown past 30, and my hope is that every community college system, every vocational school system in the United States, and later in the world, will have coding as a core part.
Yeah, you know, we, the Army, or Armed Forces, has a cybersecurity 6-month boot camp.
Yeah.
And the only place outside of the Armed Forces they do it is with our community colleges. And I said, I want the program here so we can have kids be part of the tech economy.
Yeah.
And get it within 6 months, not 4 years.
Yeah, so, that's right.
Yeah, yes. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem as a society if some people feel like they're permanent losers and not part of the winning circle.
Yeah, and that should be unacceptable to us as Americans, that anyone feel like that.
Let me ask you, so you have a lot of employees. I try this as a CEO of the city. How do you as a CEO nourish diversity but create a culture of where people feel like they have a common purpose?
Yeah,
so both the individuality but the sense of community as well.
What we believe is that we believe the best products are created by the most diverse teams. And that belief is not just my personal belief, but it's widely shared throughout the company. And in fact, in many ways, has been core of the company from the beginning of time. I mean, if you think back, and I don't mean just sort of one type of diversity. I mean broadly diverse. You'll find teams with engineers and musicians working on the same product because we want to infuse humanity into the product. And you don't get that by having all one skill set, all one gender, all one ethnic group, all one anything. And so we really try hard. It's both an imperative from what's just and right, but it's also a business imperative. We have better results because we're more diverse. And we know that we haven't arrived yet. We know we have more work to do. And we steadily do that. And so you wind up hiring people and that believe diversity is key. And you wind up making certain that you allow in your environment for different views. You know, we thrive on debate and difference. We celebrate it. We argue about it. These are great things, not bad things. And so if you have that kind of atmosphere, then people from all walks of life want to work in a place like that. Because they want to, everybody at the heart wants to be stretched in some way. They want their thinking to be stretched. If they're working next to somebody who doesn't look like them, talk like them, have the same accent as them, didn't have the same life experience as them, maybe and you know, different gender, different race, different ethnic background, you learn from that.
Can I challenge you on one thing?
Yeah.
So one of the hard parts as mayor is pulling, I'll give you an example of the Riverwalk. What I love about not just the Riverwalk and next to water, although that's great, is public spaces are one of the only places that you can make sure people don't get siloed by the comfort of agreement.
Yeah.
And you can bring people,
Yeah.
whether it's a Riverwalk, whether it's a park, whether also a school, different people from a lot of different backgrounds, rather than getting segregated into commonality.
Yeah.
And some people think technology is allowing that bifurcation rather than bring it together. And I don't know if you agree with that. If you disagree, how would you challenge that effort where people feel like they can get certain people listen and watch CNN to make the
Yeah.
point or illustrate the point. I find myself not listening to Fox, so I got to be honest about that. But how do you help make technology help people of diversity or diverse opinions actually hear each other?
Yeah, it's not so easy.
Yeah.
It's easier to do in a company, I think, than at a city or a country level, I think, right? One thing you're dealing with in a company, our goals as a company are really simple to understand. We want to create the best products that enrich people's lives. We're not going to create a product that we don't think is going to enrich somebody's life, and we're not going to create a product that we don't think is the best. And so that's who we are. That's what we're about. And so when you have that common thread, that common goal, then everything else can be different, as long as everybody keeps that North Star in their mind.
100%. So I have this discussion all the time. Before you celebrate diversity, you have to have a foundation.
You do.
And that's the key part. And sometimes people forget, well, we always celebrate diversity, in which we've done a lot for diversity, nurturing diversity, sexual orientation, race, gender, religion, faith. We have 140 languages spoken in our public schools. That should be held up, but it's also then understanding what we share that is so important.
Yeah, and I my own view of this, I've thought a lot about this, is we have as Americans, we have some core things about what an American is. We believe in freedom. We believe in liberty. We believe that we're the land of opportunity. And we need to keep these foundational things going because that defines what American is. And so in my simple kind of way of looking at it, just like Apple has its objective or mission or North Star, in a way, At the America level, to me, it's pretty clear what an American is about and the principles that make up an American.
Totally.
And so I think that we all have to do things to sort of remind ourselves and everybody around us that that is the most important thing here, and to defend and protect those things.
That's why I myself when I wrote a book called A Plan for America, the thing that surprised me, it was not a throwaway line.
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in a minimum of 6 months of national service.
I love that
That
idea.
we've lost, to be honest, and you see it in my kids' generation, that sense of what we agree upon and what we have to share, and that everybody should have to give at least 6 months graduating high school or 3 months, some number of time serving the country in whatever capacity. And if we don't do that, everybody's going to go off into separate silos.
Yeah, you know, one thing for me, I don't know about for you, but for me, I think about me growing up. Why do I feel like I do? My dad was in the military. My brother served in the military. And so there was just in both my immediate family and my extended family, there was that patriotism, that love of liberty and freedom, and that you would do anything and everything to keep it, that it's a special thing. And I have always personally been, even though I have not served in the military, I've always had the utmost respect. And I think my own opinion is, as people know fewer and fewer people who are in the military, that there's a bit of that connection in society that's been lost. I don't think it's the only issue by any means, but for me, I would say it was the thing that taught me what an American was.
Can I say, so you and I we've talked before. Isn't it a straight road from Alabama straight to Northern California? Why don't you tell people that you grew up in Alabama? How did you get to California, and did you ever envision that you would be running one of the most important, if not the biggest, company in the world?
No, I never envisioned it. And
it's a straight road, right? It just goes right to Route 66.
It's lots of crooked things and U-turns and going the wrong direction and all the rest of it. My life hasn't been a straight line.
No, I was being...
Yeah, as you know, it hasn't been. And but for that, maybe for that reason, maybe for others, there's not a day that goes by that I don't remind myself that it's the privilege of a lifetime to work in this company. And that I know that this company, Apple, could only have been created in this country. I mean, and so that's another reason that I love America so much, and you know, and I think so many of us feel like that, and it's why we want to connect to the community. It's why we want to help in education, because education was this thing that gave a guy from a very lower middle class family an opportunity, right? If it wasn't for that, I'd still be where I was, right?
So let me, one thing is, you talk about the community colleges, and I know we're working through some issues on that. The opportunity, I see that as the linchpin.
I agree.
We have a goal is, I don't know if you know this, by 2019 here in Chicago, to graduate high school, you have to show a letter of acceptance, either college, community college, branch of the armed forces, or trade school. So everybody has a post-high school education plan. If you come out of the security of the high school, and not everybody's going to grow up in Tim and Rom's home, you're going to make sure that you have the support, that you have a plan. You're not going to figure it out afterwards, that they graduate. So we're the first school system to make sure that everybody has a post-high school education plan that includes some form of training and education to further your career. And the community college is obviously a linchpin. We have the second largest one in the United States.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you guys have been so great at giving back. If give me, if I can, and not only giving back, making sure other people from all parts of the city, not just that can make it here, how do we make sure that we continue to reach out to kids that Apple may not be a product for them in their home, but they're accessible and they can see that in their lives?
Yeah, what we've been doing is, one, we've identified some schools that are, happen to have, or they're in the wrong zip code, basically.
Right.
And so they don't have the wherewithal to move from an analog classroom to a digital classroom and so forth. And so we've tried to step in and help them ourselves. We've found, in the cases that we've done that, this is a part of the Connect Ed program, roughly 120 schools across the U.S. We've learned a tremendous amount ourselves by going into these schools. We've found really receptive teachers. We've found really receptive and great leaders at the superintendent and principal levels. And it feels good to make a difference in those. I mean, I've had some great days sort of going in these classrooms and watching how engaged kids are in learning. And so we've tried to do that. Also, we do things that you don't need an Apple product to enjoy. I mean, iTunes University, and this has education on it that is sort of open source kind of stuff for everyone, right? And so we also do that. And you don't have to own an Apple product to come in our store and attend an education class.
Yeah, in fact, I brought my iPhone. I need some help on it, Tim.
We can probably help you with that. I was in the UK last week and attended a class with a group of kids that looked to be 8, 9 years old, 10 years old. Kids from a school that didn't have technology. We're teaching them coding in the store. And again, I mean, it makes your heart sing to see this. And so we try to have summer camps in the stores.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and we're doing things like with your friend that has the sort of the mother of all incubators.
1871.
I mean, it's unbelievable what they've done there. Sort of
that to me is a true example of what public-private partnership is.
I completely agree. And so, and we're working with them to sort of bring them into our stores, because this will enable them perhaps to even reach more people. You need the leadership in the political leadership, which obviously is there. You need great universities, schools that get people excited about entrepreneurship. You need some venture capital to give these guys some money so that they can go off and create things. You need a number of things. Chicago has all of these.
See, I always describe Chicago as the most American of American cities, and it's a big city with a small town feel.
Yeah.
That you don't have to be honest, in New York or LA, that this is unique culture here as a Midwest city.
Yeah, I agree. When you walk the streets here, you feel like it's a hometown place. People look you in the eye and smile.
So interesting you picked that up quickly.
I went to Starbucks. I had to go out and get my cup of coffee for the afternoon. You can tell it just by walking. You don't need to spend that much time. You can tell a city, is it warm and inviting, or is it cold and...
People look you in the eye and say hello.
Yeah. I felt in a lot of ways, I'm a product of the South, and this is one of the great things I love about the South. People look you in the eye and they say hello, and it's amazing how many barriers fall down when somebody does that.
Yes.
You're not testing their political ideology and all this other kind of stuff.
It's inviting.
It's inviting, yeah. It's just the simple things.
So we have a little thing at the end of Chicago Stories.
Yeah, okay.
Now that we're your first
another
store,
test.
and we're always if we were your first store, we're your first love. It's obvious, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So we have thick or thin pizza.
Thin.
Okay. Chicago River, the lakefront, Lake Michigan.
River.
Okay. I'm sorry about this. Cubs or Sox?
Oh my God.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good answer. That sounded closer to Hillary Clinton than anything you've said all night. All right.
I love Wrigley.
Yeah, well, there it is. You just.
I love Wrigley.
You put your thumb on the scale.
Yeah.
That was a smooth move there. All right, John Hancock, or what you would remembered as the Sears Tower that got renamed to Willis Tower.
Yeah. I would say Apple.
Okay, Apple. That will be the new one in the future. Okay, and then 16-inch softball, 12-inch.
Oh.
Have you ever played 16-inch? We're famous for this.
I have always played 12.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played 16.
You probably have all 10 digits, and none of them are crooked, and that shows it. We are so
Sounds like I'm good.
Yeah, really smart move. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
Ladies, we've been joined by Tim Cook here on Chicago Stories. Tim, I want to thank you not only for this first story, but actually I want to say something other. We're both a part of American Dreamers as it relates to, as a son of and the grandson of an immigrant. And I want to thank you for not just having a culture for your company, but then making sure that the country is true to its ideals.
Thank you. We will never forget.
Well, thank you again, really, for opening this store and investing in not just the store, but investing in the city and the community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ron.
You have been listening to Chicago Stories, a new podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans as told to Mayor Emanuel.